guys, how's it going? I got an excellent question off my blog, off my website, and he wanted to know about progressive highlighting and exactly how it applies. And he mentioned a few things like weapons, metal, hair, stuff like that. And I thought before I actually go into actually doing a tutorial on specifics like that, I think it's really important to understand the concept of how the paints interact with one another. Now, you can use a color wheel and all those sort of things, and that's all very important. It's all very academic. But really, you could really kind of substitute that for your eye in a lot of cases. When you're blending or doing highlighting, generally speaking, if you want a stark contrast, you want to go from a cool color to a light color. If you want a easy transition, something that kind of flows in, you don't really notice how it changes color. It's a very smooth transition. Then you use either all warm and all cool. What is a cool color? What is a warm color? Well, that's just something you really kind of have to look at and make a judgment call on. Now, we'll take an example here of two colors. And we have Frostbite and Arcane Blue. And as you look at them, you can kind of see one's definitely more, it's hard to describe. It's an icy kind of tone to it. If you could think of something that maybe you would paint in like a cool climate or something like that, something that goes along with that, that's what it is. All right, so we have that side is the cool side, and then again we have this is a warm color. Okay, so if you're blending these, this right here, which is coal black, is another cool color. And here's a Citadel Caldor Sky, and this is warm again. You can kind of just look at the color, and it's it has a very warm hue to it. And blues are kind of the easy one, but because you kind of think, well, is it ice or is it water, so to speak? Is it the sea or is it an iceberg? It's a real easy way to differentiate between the blues, but that also applies to other colors like red. So here's a maroon color. This is very much a cool color. So reds can also be, as in this case, warm or cool. Browns is a very important one to really kind of get your head around because there are definitely warm browns and cool browns. Warm browns are things like this is XV88, very warm, very organic, and then you have inorganic colors like Steel Drive Legion here. It's kind of more dead in color. Khakis tend to be a warmer color depending on the hue, though. I mean, they can kind of change. I've seen them go both ways. And then here's another example of kind of a cool brown. Whites do the same thing. Here I have two whites. Okay, probably can't see it very well in the camera here. Maybe if I move the light so it's not directly there. That's not too bad, huh? So we have, this is an off-white, ivory, and this is an off-white highlight by P3. This is definitely a warm color, and this is definitely a cool color. So, and the question would be, are colors neutral? They have neutral colors. There can be. Most of your metallics are neutral in color. Not all of them, but most of them are neutral in color. Also, very dark colors can be neutral as well. For instance, here's a very dark blue. This I really kind of categorize as cool if I had to put a name to it, but it kind of get with the way. And then, of course, white and black are neither nor. So what do I mean by how these things transition to one another? So let's go ahead and we'll take these two cool colors here. So we have Frostbite and Coal Black, both cool colors. Okay, I have a little base right here, and I'm just going to blend this real quick, and I'm kind of show you what I mean. Hopefully you'll be able to see it. I'm just going to do a very quick job. Okay, so here we have the base color, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of this, and let's see if we can't blend it into one another. And then a little more dark. And then always the last step is to grab your base color again and then brush it in. And there you go, very quickly. And I get, obviously there's a little bit of a transition there if you were to get and just kind of feather this stuff into one another. Probably starting with the light or the dark, I guess it probably does matter. Anyway, the point is if you look at this, it's a very natural transition between the dark to the light color. Okay, very, very natural transition, which means that it doesn't catch a lot of the eye. Sure, this is bright, and it's very kind of vibrant in your face, so to speak, because it's very light, but it's not contrasting. And I'll show you an example of that on a miniature here in a moment. So it makes it all, the whole thing seem kind of cool, and it doesn't really pop per se. It doesn't mean it doesn't look good, but it doesn't have that kind of pop effect. And then here on another base, I will kind of do the same thing here. I'll just do it with the warm color. And again, we'll go right back to the blues, okay? So we have a dark blue and a light blue. Again, warm colors. I think this base is a little dirty, but it doesn't really matter. All right, so again, some paint down, and then we'll go ahead and grab some of the light color. And sometimes you really don't know what color something is until you put it down in a dry. Sometimes things can look a little bit cool, but when you actually get it down, it's not so cool, or warm, or what have you. So again, there's a real quick a blend. But I mean, the point isn't, what's a blend like? But again, that's a very, very kind of natural transition between the two. Okay. Now let me show you the difference here. So now we have a warm and a cool color now. Okay. Start off with it's usually a little more, the lighter color is going to always kind of make things pop on this, but when you do this, you want to make sure that you have a very, very good base coat of the darker color whenever you're doing these type of transitions. And that's going to take a lot of feathering. You can see I'm already having kind of issues transitioning the two colors because it is such a stark contrast between the two. And it wasn't such a hard time when I was doing it with another cool color, if you noticed. Trust me, I'm not that good of a painter, so. And then really put the base color down here, just a moment. All right, so there, as you can see, between the two, okay, again, a cool to cool transition, right? Here, cool to cool, this right here is a warm to warm. Again, both of those are nice, but see how the change between the two, it doesn't, again, there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't necessarily pop. Where in this one right here, you can see that really, really pops right there. So again, having that cool to warm transition and understanding which ones are warm and which ones are not is really kind of the key to bringing out certain things. So hair would be a good example, right? So if you're doing hair, maybe you start out with a cool kind of dead color, and then you highlight it with a warmer color. I will demonstrate that here really quick. Okay, so a little bit of Steel Drab Legion here. Got blue all on my brush, so you have to excuse me for a moment. I'm trying to keep this short, guys. So again, if you were doing, say, something like hair, and you really want the highlights to pop, or you really want it to pop, put down a kind of a deader color, like the Steel Drab Legion. Okay. As it dries, and as this one dries, it will turn more cool, as the same way this one kind of keeps its vibrancy. Cool colors tend to deaden a little bit when they dry. Anyway, and then what you would do is you'd pick a very warm highlight. Now here we're going to go for the extreme, but this is warm. And this is the Menoth White highlight, but I still have a little bit of brown in the brush. So And again, I know there's a difference in the brightness, but again, there's a big contrast between the two, and they contrast very heavily. You could build that up, of course, with a warm base highlight. So here's a little bit XV88. And then you could put the Menoth white on top of that if you wanted to. If I get away so it's not so shiny, you can see what I'm talking about. That's the basic theory behind it, guys. So it was an excellent question. I think it's very important to understand the dynamics of how these different colors interact with one another, because you really use them to your advantage. And as I said, I'd show you a quick example. So you guys have probably seen this before. This is my Minotaur Beastman standard bearer. And here is the standard, okay? And it's a very nice looking standard, but they're all cool colors, right? And those cool colors transition from cool color, dark to light. And you can see it is bright, but there's something not striking about it, so to speak. It looks wonderful, but it doesn't pop. And I didn't want it to pop, but you know, that's kind of the idea behind it. And here I have a commission that I'm working on, and I will show you a little peek at it. These are lizardmen, and then the back here, the scales, this is a cool color, and then the purple on it is a warm color, and you can see how they're, even though they're both dark colors, they contrast quite well. And then on the contrary, you can even do the same thing with the same shades. Here's the exact same, not same model, but another one. But in this case, the purple is actually cool, and the blue is actually the warmer one of the two. And again, they still contrast. So same basic color scheme with two different kind of outcomes between the two. And you can even see how I have that khaki that's base coat in the bones here, how they have a different way of standing out from one another. One kind of looks a little more vibrant than the other one. Warm colors tend to do that. But again, one's a warm color on top of a warm color, one's a cool color on top of a cool color. I would designate the khaki as a cool color, so on the warm, it really pops. On the cool, it kind of melds a little bit more. So anyway, there's 12 minutes of your time. I probably could have been a little more succinct about this, but anyway, guys, so that's a little piece of color theory I don't think you're going to read about in too many places or understand just by kind of, you will understand just by doing it. But if you keep those little pointers in mind when you're doing highlights and stuff, try and mix warm with cool and cool with warm if you really want those things to stand out. If you're an edge highlighting type guy on Space Marines or anything like that, paint something in warm and switch over to the cool and see what happens. All right, guys, thanks for your time. You guys take care.